Hello students. Today we are going to learn a new chapter, resources in geography. So let's talk about the meaning of resources first. We all know that man has several basic needs which he satisfies from nature. Rocks, minerals, soils, rivers, plants and animals are the various gifts of nature to men. These elements of nature are called resources, or you can say many materials that constitute part of earth and which satisfy a human need are called resources. So basically, what did you learn by this term resources? जैसे आप अपने आसपास कोई भी नेचुरल थिंग देखते हो और वो सभी किसी भी तरह से हमारी मतलब ह्यूमंस की नीड्स को फुलफ़िल करती हैं, तो वही रिसोर्सेज होती हैं बेसिकली. फॉर एग्ज़ाम्पल, आई हैव टोल्ड यू दैट देयर आर various elements of nature and these elements of nature are called resources. Yes, one more thing, keep this in mind that a thing, object or element becomes a resource only when it has the capability to fulfill men's need. To justify this, I have an example for you. In olden days, waterfalls had no real use to us until we started harnessing them for generation of electricity. So, we must understand that the natural resources acquire value as a resource only when we start using them. Nowadays, with our technical know-how, we can also change the value of resources and can create wealth out of them. For example, we produce fine clothes from cotton and we produce fine paper from wood and pulp. So here I have told you that what is the meaning of a resource as well as we can make wealth out of it. Next topic is types of resources. Resources are classified in a number of ways. On the basis of their origin, resources may be biotic or abiotic. Now, what are they? Let's just learn them by having a slight difference. First, talk about the biotic resource. All those resources which we obtain or take from living beings are called biotic resources. For example, the agricultural crops, forest, fish and animals belong to biotic groups. They can be renewed over a period of time, whereas abiotic resources belong to non-living groups. They are generally found within Earth's crust. Minerals like copper, gold, iron are some examples of abiotic resource. They can be renewed, but they take much longer period of time than the biotic resources. So now we have understood the difference or the different type of the resources, that is biotic resources and abiotic resources. Now let's talk about the classification of resources. Some other categories are also there, so let's talk about them first. The first one is developed resources. The resources which are actually in use are developed resources. Means if we are using any resource, that means it is already a developed resource. For example, river Satluj has been tamed, power projects have been set up on it and electricity is being generated. So this has become a developed resource, means we are using that river for our benefit or our needs. Next we have non-renewable resources. These resources get renewed or replenished quickly. Some of these are unlimited and are not affected by human activities such as solar energy. They can be renewed in a short time, but careless use of some renewable resources like water, soil, and forest can affect their stock, and we may face serious conditions and problems around us. So, we have to learn the value of these resources as well. Don't think that they can be renewed in a short time, so we should waste them. That is wrong. Water, soil, solar energy, everything is important, so try to conserve them all. The next resource type is non-renewable resources. Such resources have a limited stock, means we cannot have enough of it, or we don't have a very large stock of it and we can use it unlimitedly. Once the stocks are exhausted or finished, it may take thousands of years to be renewed or replenished, means we cannot generate these type of resources easily. For example, coal, petroleum, and natural gas. These are some examples of non-renewable resources. Next, we have actual resources. What are they? Those resources whose quantity is known are called actual resources. Means if we know the exact amount of any resource, maybe in the world or maybe in a defined area or a definite area, there we call such resources actual resources. For example, petroleum in West Asia and coal in Ruhr region, Germany are actual resources. Now the next topic is potential resources. Potential resources are those whose entire quantity may not be known and they are not being used at present even. Do you know the examples of potential resources? I'll give you one. The uranium found in Ladakh is an example of potential resource which could be used in future. Winds were a potential resource earlier, but today they are an actual resource as they generate energy, or as we generate energy using wind turbines. So I hope till here you don't have any doubt. Basically, potential resources are those resources whose entire quantity may not be known and they are not being used at present but will be used in future purposes. These resources will be used in future. The level of technology we have at present may not be advanced enough to utilize these resources basically. That's why we took or we have already kept them for the future purposes. Next topic is ubiquitous resources. These resources are found everywhere, like the air that we breathe and the river water we use to wash our clothes and for other purposes are some of the ubiquitous resources. Now next we have localized resources. What are they? Those resources which are found in certain places only are called localized resources. For example, coal, petroleum, any mineral, any metal, herb, honey, woods, fruits, they are some of the things which can be found only a certain place, but with the contrast to this, ubiquitous resources can be found everywhere or anywhere. So there is a difference between the two, that localized resources exist in specific locality or region, but ubiquitous resources exist almost anywhere on the globe, like air, water, soil. They might be available everywhere, but the localized or the specialized resources will be found on a certain place. So with this, your chapter is ended. Now for the conclusion, I have something to say. Students, using resources carefully and giving them time to get renewed is called resource conservation. Balancing the need to use resources and also conserve them for the future is called sustainable development. These two things are very important to learn, because if we want our new generation to have all these resources available around them, so we have to be more cautious and careful from now. We have to conserve our resources, and yes, we need to make a balance between or balance to use resources and conserve them for the future, and this is known as sustainable development. And you know what? There are many ways of conserving resources. Each person can contribute in resource conservation by reducing consumption, recycling, and reusing things. Ultimately, it is going to make a difference, maybe in a short time, or maybe it will take a long time, but definitely there will be a difference for sure. Now let's talk about